Hello and welcome to the Empowered Couples Podcast, where here you get modern, non-boring relationship advice for you and your partner to communicate like pros, fight smarter, and stay on the same team no matter the challenge that you face. I am one of your hosts, Aaron Freeman.
And I'm Jocelyn Freeman, but you all just know us as the Freemans.
And today is all about what to do when you disagree on a big decision, something we know about.
Yeah, and this is actually our first episode recording in our new home in Arizona. We finally arrived, all of you, and maybe we'll give you an update soon. But let's give you context. Where did this come from? Well, we receive DMs from you all every single day, and we got an incredible question about this. What do I do? My partner and I disagree. It's a big decision. And then they elaborated about how one of them wanted to stay in their current state, and the other wanted to move back, which happened to be to Arizona, and be back in their community. And I was like, I relate to that because we also just did that.
I was going to say, are you talking about us?
I know.
That's us.
Exactly. And then that prompted us to go, okay, so you're dealing with that. Let's also ask the community on Instagram. And so we put up a poll, and so many of you said, yes, we disagree on things like parenting styles. That came up several times. If both of you should work from home versus out at office. Another was getting married versus not, right? So like, can we get engaged? Do we just keep dating for a while? Also career choices. And in particular, one said, my partner wants to take a job that requires travel, and we have, a young family here, right? So that was a big one. A few more here. How to communicate or argue in front of kids, finances and growing wealth, when to have children, and then some like interfaith lifestyle choices and differences with their families of origin.
Mm-hmm. On a personal note, we make big decisions.
Yes, we do.
and sometimes don't always see eye to eye. Now, the 6 key elements we're going to give you here today are what we base all of our decisions on. One main primary thing, but there gets to these points where we're not sure. So we really rely on these. But for us, 2 things that stick out. One, we were making a decision on when/if to have kids. Mm-hmm. I was in a much different place than you were. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't say we necessarily disagreed, as in you said, I want kids now, and I said I didn't. It wasn't quite like that. Mm-hmm. But I think for a couple of years, it did go on you wanting more of a decision on when, as in it was going to be a yes at some point. And then the other one was, obviously, if you're listening to this podcast, we sold our house in Arizona, moved to Charlotte, then after 7 months, moved back here to Arizona. And it wasn't just that decision. I would say the big decision in all that was in the first move to Charlotte. Do we buy or do we rent? Mm-hmm. Good thing that we rented. And then also coming back, do we buy now or do we continue to rent in Arizona? So I would say that was like the key element of all that transition for us, is to decide on the buying or renting the place.
Yeah, and we've had with these decisions, among others, moments where it was more neutral, like we weren't fiery about it and adamant about our perspectives. But then there also were moments, like there was a moment where I was like, we should buy, and I was frustrated that we weren't buying and that Aaron didn't want to buy. And so know that you may either have times where you're more neutral, it's not emotional, but you definitely disagree. And then there might be moments and decisions where you're feeling impacted. You're maybe feeling frustrated, sad, upset that your decisions are so different from each other. And it might change moment to moment where you're at with it. And so before we go into the 6 key elements to making a big decision, Aaron, we can't have them miss the web class we're doing next Tuesday.
Oh, wow. It's coming up so fast.
So July 20th, right? We are doing another free web class after so many of you have asked us. Over 200 of you are already registered, and keep them coming. It is going to be all about communication mastery and 4 skills you must learn to be able to understand each other's needs, create win-win solutions, and deepen your emotional intimacy. So do not miss that. We don't do these often. Again, it's July 20th, and you go to Online Couples Workshops with an S, or you can go to our Instagram page as well. I'm excited for that, Aaron.
Oh, yeah, me too. I think 202 people registered. Love doing these. hope to see all of you there. So let's go into now the 6 key elements to making a big decision. And number 1 is having a couple's vision statement.
Say that again, a couple's vision statement?
Having a couple's vision statement. Now, we do take couples through creating their vision statement in our in-person, in Arizona couples workshop, which actually, surprise, we're doing another one. We haven't been able to do one for a year and a half.
Oh my gosh,
now
before
or something,
quarantine,
obviously.
you guys.
And so August 22nd, for those of you in Arizona, you can actually come to the couples workshop. It's a half-day event all about communication. You'll start off by creating your couple's vision statement. If that's of interest to you, by the way, thecouplesworkshop.com. But what I want to say about the couple's vision statement, it is a statement that we help couples craft. So it's specific and it's succinct. And what it does for you, creates the purpose of your relationship. It creates what you believe your relationship is here to represent. Mm-hmm. And by having that, we can't go through all the steps of creating your vision statement now, but Jocelyn, share a few things. Having this vision statement that's not just me or you being in a relationship, but it is a statement that represents how we see our relationship as a separate entity from us that we are in service of. How does this vision statement really help us make decisions?
Yeah, so if you think about, to take it to another area, if you think about companies, they have a certain vision. And even if different executives, leaders have different perspectives, no, I think we should focus on this project. No, I think we should do this. What guides them to always come back to be on the same team and to keep moving forward is that they know their vision. They don't have conflicting visions. It's like, this is the vision. This is where we're all headed. And even if we encounter challenges, this is what we're focused on fulfilling. Mm-hmm. And so in your relationship, when you have that guiding vision, this is what we want to accomplish. This is who we want to be as a couple. This is what's important to us in life. It will allow you to use the vision as the filter, as opposed to always, no, mine versus yours, like you said, right? Like, no, my opinion, no, mine. It's like, which one is in alignment with our vision? And that has helped us with every decision, right? Even if we had slightly conflicting, oh, but I want this, no, I want this. It was like, which one aligns with the vision? And it makes such a big difference. And it is too long, like you said, to go through our entire process, because we usually take couples through at least an hour in our couples workshop, which, by the way, I want to clarify really quick, because you heard couples workshop twice. There's a web class. That one's free on July 20th, and that is about communication mastery. Then our in-person half-day couples workshop is in Arizona on August 22nd, and that's a different web URL. So I'm sure people were like, wait, which is a web class? Which one's a workshop? I just want to clarify that.
Yes, great clarification on that. And just to wrap up this vision statement here, it really is something that identifies your values as a couple. And then so by putting that together and also having it be a representation of really what your life is about, so future looking that you look at the vision statement and say, is this decision aligned or misaligned with these values, with what we see our overall life purpose to be? And by having something that sort of is this umbrella statement, you're able to kind of put aside all the personal concerns about whether I agree or disagree, or whether I'm getting my chance to put in my 2 cents here or not. You come together as a team to really make this decision.
And it's also like, what is our dream here? What must we fulfill on? What do we want life to look like in 1 year, 3 year, 5 year? Kind of like a vision board. Ours just happens to be in a vision statement. So with this first element, right, you want to clarify what's our vision as a couple, and we want to align on that so that we can filter decisions. Going into the second key element to making a big decision is you must listen to each other's ideas / preferences all the way through without judgment or just turning it down. And I have to be honest here, one pattern I've really had to try and break, and it's still something I'm bringing awareness to, is sometimes if I'm really adamant about my perspective, I can jump in on Aaron before he finishes his thought and kind of be like, no, and dismiss it and kind of jump in before he's even finished it, before we've even really fleshed it out. And so many times, Aaron, when I have actually listened to you all the way through, your idea is really good. And I'm like, oh, okay, I should have really listened to you. And that's important. Your partner needs to be understood and validated.
And actually, many times, if I'm honest, I push back against you and your decision, not because I didn't think it was a good idea itself. Listen to this, everyone, and identify if you might be in this position. I push back against your idea only because I didn't feel like I had a say. Now, this shows up in a lot of the coaching we do as well. If you, as a partner, feel a sense of being controlled or dominated in a way, not being able to be a part of decision making, and you've been feeling that in some other area like finances or maybe kids, you will subconsciously take a stand against your partner in an unrelated area. Maybe it's sex and intimacy, maybe it's quality time, maybe it's family or vacations or something about the home, right? What's driving that emotion to make this decision, or for you to push against their decision, is that I'm going to get control back. And that does happen to me, like often. Like you said, you just didn't listen all the way through, and then you're like, oh, that is a good idea. There's times I'm like, this actually probably sounds like a good idea, and I'm just going to push against this because I don't feel that overall I've been able to have my voice heard. Or I don't feel a sense of control again, right? So just start to notice this, where a point being, listen to your partner all the way through. And then you might start to notice for yourself, as they're talking, just see if that emotion is coming up for you. Oh man, I don't have a say here, or I just don't feel like I've had my
never
voice
goes my way.
being heard. Yeah. And see if you can set that aside just for a minute for them to share their idea fully.
That is so true. And this one ties into the third element, because if you two do not listen to each other all the way through and truly understand each other, there will likely be no creativity, and it won't be as fun making the decision. So it is so critical. You must take this time to understand each other and listen all the way through. Then going to the third element is to write out 10 possible ideas. Look, it is interesting how we can sometimes be battling only over 2 ideas. Here's mine, here's yours. When you think about it, there are infinite possibilities. And actually, what if that's not even the most creative one? What if that isn't even the best solution, but you've been so attached to that one that you've been thinking? So what you want to do after really listening to each other is maybe get out a whiteboard. We have multiple whiteboards. Maybe it's a piece of paper, and literally write out at least 10 possible ideas/solutions. And they could be a little bit outlandish. Actually, to get in the creative mind, you actually have to break limits and kind of break your fixed way of thinking. So write things that maybe you would never even do because they seem outlandish. Maybe some of them are silly. Maybe some of them aren't even possible, but it will get you in your creative, resourceful mind.
Yeah, that's one of the best things to do for a couple of reasons. As you mentioned, getting into a creative state, but also brings up some humor. So when you're in a place where you're not able to make a decision, primarily because they're conflicting, you feel against each other, what you need is a little break from that emotion. So coming up with that idea like, well, let's just sell everything and let's travel and we'll just backpack in Europe for 2 years. And, you would never really do that, but coming up with these really kind of unrealistic ideas, which maybe in another life you would, but this creates the humor, and it starts to get you in a state of not only togetherness, but creativity for these next couple steps. Now, we will say 10 ideas is actually kind of hard to get to.
It really
You
is.
have to have some of these unrealistic ones to get there. What you will find, because we actually do this exercise with couples in our coaching that are in this type of position, and when you get to 6, 7, or 8, you'll find that you came up with a blend of two ideas that you never thought of before.
Right.
And often it's in this 6, 7, or 8 that you're like, wow, what a great idea. Mm-hmm. So in the first couple, 1 to 3 are going to be the ones that you've been thinking of, right? And it's like 4 to about 6. You kind of come up with a blend of both, part of one, part of another. Your partner might be like, that sounds exactly like your own idea. But again, you get into this really creative space where you're like, wow, I never thought about that before. Mm-hmm. So then like 9 and 10 could just be like silly also ones. Outlandish.
Yeah. And again, don't eliminate any of them. So as you're writing the list, you can't be like, oh, no, I'd never do that one. That's going to take you out of being a team, out of being creative. So write them all out. Then these next steps are going to help you filter those 10 plus ideas. So the fourth element, with having listened to each other, writing out 10 plus ideas, you want to expand time. Aaron, do you want to talk about this?
That's the term that I like, to expand time. Oh, what a great idea. If you think about this, nothing is really permanent. But we fight against our partners as if this decision is the last. This is how it's going to go for the rest of our life. So expand time. I also like to think of just broadening your timeline and just think, okay, well, number one, this isn't forever. And it gets you in a space where you can explore timing options. So for instance, maybe you try one partner's idea for a certain period of time. And then after that time elapses, if that works, then that's great. And if it doesn't, you have a set review time where you come back and say, okay, let's try your idea again, right? This is something we did with a couple here recently, and it was a bigger one. It was, he took a new job. This was conflicting because she thought, with your travel, I'm going to feel like raising the kid on my own. So they set, what was it, a year, mm-hmm. Which I know seems like a long time out. With jobs or moving, probably going to be a little bit harder, maybe, to say, well, let's put this out a year. But if you set a timeline, this is the main takeaway. Set a time to actually review how well that decision is matching up for your vision. And then you can come back and try out the other partner's decision.
Yeah. And especially, I like what you said, Aaron. I just want to expand on. If you say, okay, let's try your idea for a little while, you might end up finding that it works. But also, this is one where you have to set aside moments of inflexibility and just try your partner's idea for a little while. Then, all right, we're going to come back to ours. And that is flexibility is important in a relationship. Mm-hmm. So I love that experimentation and taking that time for each of your ideas, and then go, all right, out of those 2 or out of those 3, I actually liked yours better. That actually worked better for us.
Yeah, totally. Let me give you one other tip on time. And often we think to ourselves, only around the time of making the specific decision. But what I have found for myself is making bigger decisions if I took a step back. I took a smaller slice of that decision and said, we're going to set a date by when we're going to know the decision.
Yes.
Number one, it brings clarity, right? Okay, so, before, I don't know, a couple of years ago when we were trying to make some bigger decisions on house and moving.
We even did this with about picking to have kids or not, or when
we
use
that's
this.
true.
Because I was kind of like, I want you to open up to it. Are we going to have kids in the next couple of years? And you used that. This really helped me know that it wasn't going to be infinite, like later, let's talk about it later.
Well, that's a good point. When you're not making a decision together, one person feels as if it's dragging on. Mm-hmm. So what we do is pick, let's say, 30 days. That's one I use. It's not like a standard set, but I've used this one. Okay, in 30 days, we're going to have decided on whether we're going to try to have kids or whether we're going to move or sell the house. Mm-hmm. And that really allowed the space for both of us to think about, process, contemplate on what really is an alignment for both of us. When you're in the heat of trying to make the decision and one doesn't feel in alignment or they feel controlled like we've been talking about, it seems really hard in that moment to say, this is what we're going to do or not going to do. So if you put that out, let's say 30 days, now for many people that pray or meditate, connect to their inner being, let's say, this gives you that time to do that. And then you can have some smaller conversations, 15 days, 20 days. By the time you get to 30 days, because you've had the focus on, I'm going to get a decision by this date, there's something that happens in the universe, in the spiritual realm, that starts to bring you answers to this also. So set this out. Okay, we can't make a decision on this right now. Let's say by when we are going to make this decision.
Okay, I just got excited before we go to the fifth one. What you said also made me think about our decision to get engaged or not. Because I was kind of like, hey, are we going to be getting engaged at some point here? And you're like, I can't give you like a definite date, right? And I didn't want to, of course, force that upon you. You're not trying to like force a date from your partner on something like that, right? And so one of the things that you did was exactly this. Okay, I will give you a clear answer by the end of this year, right? And it was, this was going back in 2014, I guess. And you also said, what I'd like to do before making that decision is do this and this, which happened to be preparing for marriage, talking about a couple different factors. And so this is almost a bonus one I thought of was you not only used this time element of telling me I'll have a decision by the end of the year, but also we talked about what we both feel we need to do before making that decision, which might be getting educated. It might be finding, out answers that you don't really know, and it'll help you make the decision or feel more certainty.
Yeah.
So I just thought it's like a bonus one coming in here before the fifth one.
The fifth one here is to determine a majority leader in this area. Now, the key phrase here is in this area. So think about this. If you were, again, like a business, you would have, let's say, a project manager for a particular project. Think of areas of your life as projects. You have the home and family and finances, intimacy. And what you do is identify one person to be the majority stakeholder, if you will, the majority decision maker on a 51%, 49%, right? So their majority vote casts as this is what we're going to finally do. This is after you go through all these other steps. But if you get to this place where you both have been heard, it seems like it's in alignment with the vision, you feel that way, but one person isn't a total yes, depending on the area, you might say, okay, you're the majority decision maker, the 51 in this area, so we'll go with your final decision.
Yeah, and this one may not work for everything. We're not saying that, but several areas can work this way. For example, for us, finances, you're 51%. So you are the main leader. Yes, I have a say, but 51. At the end of the day...
I thought it was like 98.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you manage our finances for us, but in terms of decisions, like you have that 51%, but we decided on that. And that really helped me. Whereas what I think we provided for our move was you gave me 51% ownership of picking the house and then also our furniture. And so I've gotten to lead our style and what it's going to look like. And so this can be helpful. And even it might be like,
well, I want to say something about this. I really feel this is number 5, right? And I actually feel this is a good spot, as in it's almost linear how we put this together. I think the vision statement is the number one thing. You just go down here to listening, to writing out the ideas, to expanding time. At number 5, I feel like this is, if you haven't yet fully got there,
right,
I feel like this is when you put it in, and this is when you identify, that person. Actually, to your point, you can identify a 51-49 for all areas of your life now. Then as you're making a hard decision, go down all these steps we're talking about. Then you could say, well, since you're the 51, and you probably at least feel that your voice has been heard, you've got creative and thought of a bunch of different ideas. And then so you get to this point where you feel good about, as the 49%, you feel good about saying, okay, 51, go ahead.
And that requires going to the 6th step, which is if your partner is the 51%, or let's say you together made a decision that feels like it equally brought in your input, or not. Maybe it is actually a little bit more of your partner's idea than yours because it's one of the 10 ideas that you thought, okay, we'll try that one. Here's the thing. Once you make that decision and you both say, okay, that's it, You have to truly commit.
That's right.
What you don't want to do, and this is so critical, is say, okay, we're making that decision. Then you constantly question it. You kind of keep having a little bit of resistance to it. You bring it up daily.
You doubt it. Yeah. This is the biggest thing for couples, because if you feel that your partner was the one that made this decision and you're every day looking for reasons that this wasn't right, so you could say, do you see what you did to us? This is going to cause not only a huge rift, how would this ever be successful if you're the anchor that's dragging this whole thing down?
It would not make it fun at all.
No, you have to commit to the decision as a couple, as if even if your partner made the majority of the decision or you just went with theirs all together, you then have to get yourself into the state as if you made this decision on your own. I mean, I would say like as a team, but that to me almost feels different. If I took ownership of this decision that we're doing as a couple, as if I made it and truly commit, that has me stay on your side, as well as, again, there's universal and spiritual principles behind this. This is a fundamental principle in Think and Grow Rich. You know, the difference between truly successful and wealthy people: make decisions quickly and do not look back and doubt them.
And for this one, because I know you're like, Freemans, this is hard to do because I don't, feel like it's my idea. Again, you chose together. I'm going to trust you. Like, this is a trust factor. I'm going to trust you. This is your idea, and maybe it'll turn out better, or maybe it won't. But when you review in that set time that we talked about in step 4, I believe it was, and you go, okay, we reviewed in a month, or for some bigger decisions, we're going to review in a year. Up until that point, lean into it, trust it, give it a try, and then review it at that set time. And you can always make a new decision.
That was the last thing I wanted to say. Even in your review, if you're at, let's say, 6 months or a year, you don't get to that point and say, your idea sucked, obviously. And what a waste of 6 months. We should have went with my idea first. No, you have to always be looking into the future. We made the decisions that we made, and you literally, when you commit, those just go in the past, not to be reviewed again. So when you're at 6 months, you're just making another decision.
Exactly.
Not because one was bad. Here you are now together. And what decision are we now making forward for our vision?
So good. So we really hope you enjoyed these 6 elements for making a big decision together. Now, we don't think that this will eliminate all emotion. There might be times where
no, we didn't say that at all.
Yeah, you're impacted by the decision. I mean, it's been super emotional with us choosing to have kids or not, to move. There is emotion involved.
Why is moving so horrible all the time?
And it's a big decision, right? So there are things, whether it's parenting styles, finances, there's emotion behind it. But you can't let the emotion keep you from being a team, being creative, making decisions that are in alignment with your vision, as you talked about, Aaron, in the first element. And so you may want to listen to this one again and write down the 6 elements for this. Try them out. Really give it a shot. Listening to each other completely, writing the 10 ideas, playing with timing and, trying one person's over the other. Try the 50-140. Give these a try. And remember, flexibility is important in a relationship, and trust is important. Trust your partner's ideas and give them a try.
Yes. And one quick thing I wanted to say, I wanted to thank everyone that's been listening and reviewing. I know we've been asking about that on frequent episodes, and we're going great. So we want to thank all of you for writing a review. Last quick note, if you haven't written a review, please do. We're playing a game to get 100 more this month. It just makes such a big difference for other couples getting this content and making a difference in their life.
And with that, everyone, we love you all so much. Thank you for DMing us on Instagram, for connecting with us, for listening. Can't wait to see you on the web class. Remember to go to onlinecouplesworkshops.com. That's the free one on July 20th. If you're curious about the Arizona one, don't hesitate to reach out to us. We can't wait to see you in person. But we love you all, and we'll talk to you on the next episode.